spook easily startled.
Have you ever explored the depths of fear? Have you ever wondered what depravity dwells within the imagination of a storyteller that prompts them to exhume horrors untold and expose those horrors to unsuspecting audiences? Some are repulsed, and some are shaken. However, there are those who are invigorated. So to those demented souls, we invite you to journey inward into the dark bowels of human imagination. Press play, and you will discover what's in the podcast.
And welcome back to another edition of What's in the Podcast, Maestros of Mayhem edition. This is the edition that we talk about the collected works of one of the great auteurs of horror, and we explore what it is that has made them a singular voice in the genre that we love so very, very much. But speaking of people that we love so very, very much, today we brought a new friend to the show. It is Emma of the Impact. This is the first time we have been circling each other so many times on TikTok, on the Instas, and all these other things, but finally you have decided to join us. So welcome to
Finally, the
the
serpent
show.
is eating its tail.
Oh, yeah. I have never seen that in person, but I've always been intrigued. I'd be like going, so how does the pooping go, you know? I mean, now eating the own tail is one thing, but I'd be intrigued about seeing the serpent shit its own tail.
Yeah, that, let's get existential. This is a existential topic.
Yeah.
And from our subject, a very agnostic point of view of existentialism.
Yeah, and if there's anything that is indicative of the man that we're talking about today, he's not content to just talk about one aspect of the body. He will talk about every angle of it, even on the out of it. You know, he is that guy who will give bodies orifices just so that way he can explore what happens when that part of the body has an orifice. Can you fuck it? Can you stick a VCR tape in it?
Yeah, is it a bug that can talk through its anus? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not exaggerating, you guys.
Is it a game system that looks like an aborted fetus? You know, it could be anything. You know, yeah. So if anyone clicked on the thumbnail today, we are talking about the great David Cronenberg, a man who is still around to this very day, and in fact, actually just recent and is still, even in lieu of his latter day age, and the fact that his kids have actually very ably carrying his Brandon and Caitlin, both carrying his legacy with great aplomb. He is still making movies to this very day. So it is great that you decided to come with us to talk with him about it. But before we get into that, as is tradition on What's in the Podcast, since this is your first time, go ahead and give us your origin story. What brought you into the realm of horror?
Well, I feel like it's just kind of born in you a little bit, like this certain level of how first being into narrative storytelling, right? And what type of narrative storytelling draws you in. I had my dad when I was 4, like he was not just showing me, you could say it's not a horror movie exactly, but I was 4 and he was showing me this movie that like really meant something. When you know when a movie really means something to somebody and they're like, yeah, it was King Kong. And my grandmother, Mariette, who's still 93 and nice and tough as nails as ever. If she stopped smoking, it would probably kill her. I love her to death. Yeah.
I had a grandmother who, alas, is not with us anymore. But ironically, yeah, smoked like a chimney, but never ever. It was never cancer that took her. That was the funny part.
Yeah, I have to wash my clothes 2 times when I get back, like to get
Oh,
the
really?
smoke. Oh yeah, but I love her. So she showed me films in general, and then she saw that I liked the Hitchcock films. She would show me. She figured that's safe enough now, right? And Jaws.
Yeah.
So then I kind of went on my own journey watching all the slashers. From Video Junction in a small town, Hopkinton, New Hampshire,
Lovely.
when they were just turning over to DVD and they still had the VHS on the main shelves. And it's the truth. It's a film I love. It's a film that I understand in my own way. And it comes kind of cliche, but I had gone through the slashers, loved them, had an affinity more so for Freddy, obviously. And I was building up to Hellraiser. So I just picked up this one movie. I thought it was just going to be a basic slasher, right?
Yeah.
And then it blended horror and comedy and the absurd so well. And I had never seen anything like that before. I was so young. American Psycho. And so that
Oh
was one of the ones
yeah,
that really solidified. And The Shining and Silence of the Lambs were big into that too.
beautiful. Oh yeah, no, American Psycho. I'd like to think that. Well, I think that one's really kind of had something of a resurgence in popularity because, of course, of the political climate of late, and that story just being a balls out indictment of toxic masculinity at its most archetypal.
Written by Guinevere Turner and Mary Harron, who also directed it.
Yeah.
And like, what woman or anybody really hasn't been talked at the way Patrick Bateman talks at them? Have I also been Patrick Bateman? And he's a loser, don't get me wrong. I'm not one of those that thinks I don't think he's cool in any sense of the form. Where I'm
Not a
like,
role
oh,
model. Yeah.
yeah, no, absolutely not. He's
No.
pathetic. But that's why it's funny. But have
Yeah.
I talked to somebody about Star Trek? Yes, and I'm gonna do it to you now. So trust me, it connects. Do you watch Star Trek at all?
I'm a Whovian. I'm a Doctor Who guy myself, but I
Um,
have dabbled. I have dipped my toe into the realm of Star Trek, but I know why you're leaning in this direction
yeah.
because oh, I looked at his IMDb page.
And because David Cronenberg is a Trekkie as well. Because
Mhm.
even though he has these very dark visuals, these very dark themes, uh, with David Cronenberg and his atheism, he's mentioned, well, this is it for us. You know, this is there's nothing after this. And if we just realize that and really appreciate our bodies and really care for each other, realizing this is it, we live in a better world. So he, despite how his films don't always feel optimistic, he's an optimistic guy, and optimistic
Yeah.
people usually are Trekkies. And so okay, I'm not gonna go deep into it, but there's a one series is one of the least popular Star Trek series is Star Trek Enterprise. That's the one with Scott Bakula
Mhm.
as the captain. And
Yeah.
there's a character in the temporal world, which basically means he keeps track of people that go back or forward in time. Like he's Agent Daniels, right? And it doesn't make sense, and I won't go into why it doesn't make sense. But at the very end of Star Trek Discovery, which is one of the newer series, with Michael as the captain, depending on what series. Anyway, just to say, well, let's just
Yeah.
say Michael's the captain, okay? And there's this character played by David Cronenberg, and we call him Dr. Something, but it turns out he was Agent Daniels all along. I was the only one of the only ones because I'm such a indoor kid dork. I'm like, that's Agent Daniels, and he has Cisco's baseball and and Picard's flute. Oh my God! So I just wanted my flowers for that. So um, David Cronenberg, I see you. Optimistic,
Yes.
Trekkie, even though you have a lot of darkness.
And it's with that darkness. It's well the idea that yeah, because he's an atheist and because he does not believe in the concept of the afterlife, and that's actually kind of a great philosophy to have regarding why we should appreciate our lives as it is, because after that, it's yeah, it's nothing. So that is why it is the scary thought of you decaying or the idea that you lose control of yourself in some form or another, or if you surrender control, like how terrifying would that be? And even more so, well, I mean, actually, kind of a fun way to start from the beginning, from the end. But recently with The Shrouds, that is a film about someone, basically about the living struggling to come to terms with the dead, coming to terms with what happens when you lose a loved one, and about the idea that sometimes your obsession with not moving on can basically lead you to, lead you to madness in a way that you're not, that you may have already have gone mad and you didn't even realize it, and then people start going mad around you because of your madness. So,
That's something I like about, whether it's exactly his intent or not, is that, in America, even though David Cronenberg, very Canadian man, um,
oh,
I
so
mean,
Canadian.
very Canadian, grew up in Canada. Most of his films are shot in Canada, except for, well, I don't know all of them, but his first one that I think he
Um,
shot in Hollywood was Map to the Stars.
yeah.
But basically Canadian as you can be. I think about American health insurance in the sense that they separate mental health and physical health, and it's just to make money or to not deny claims because physical health and mental health are the same thing. You know, if you break your leg and you're kind of in the house, you can't really like think of Bart Simpson when he broke his leg and couldn't go in the pool. You know, you get a little like
Yo,
squirrely, like rear window, or you just get depressed because you know, especially if you're a person that moves around a lot, and it
yeah.
affects you mentally. And that's just a simple, you know, that there's a lot, and you know, if your mental health is not good, you know, it you tend not to take as good depending I'm just glazing over here big ideas, so I'm not saying anything definite, but just as examples. I really think it's an important thing to think about with the physical body and the mental body. They're not separate. And that's something that I really
Hmm.
appreciate, whether Cronenberg means to say that or not. It really is apparent in his body horror work, and especially with The Brood, which I wish he kind of,
Yeah.
and Crimes of the Future a bit, the newer one, not the original.
Yeah, his original short film, yeah.
Uh, well, it was, I wish it was shorter. It's not very good. No
Yeah.
offense you know, it's one of his early tries and has a lot
Yeah.
of narrative
He,
over it. Yeah.
well, he was still in film school around the time he did that one. Yeah.
Yeah, no
I,
offense, men.
yeah. Oh no, I'd be inclined to agree with you. No, Crimes of the Future. That one was one I went to go to the theater to see that one, and I was hypnotized from the get-go on that one because to me that whole movie was about our obsession with trying to maintain some sort of status quo, that anytime we show that we are adapting or we are actually trying to evolve with the environment, as we unfortunately as humanity have made for ourselves, we keep trying to stifle that evolutionary progress because because we are so set in our ways. And anytime we have any kind of and anytime anything extraordinary truly happens, we trivialize it by turning it into, for all intents and purposes, a freak show
I felt
kind of
like
thing.
Crimes of the Future to me felt like a combination of the themes in The Brood and also Crash. And the idea, and
Mm,
because it's so sexual too, because sexuality is
yeah,
a big part of a lot of his body horror films, even though in the early Shivers, his first feature film that was released in theaters, it doesn't feel like sexual things are happening, but it doesn't feel that way. And then it does kind of find its groove. Um, but it still always feels weird. And like in Crash, it feels surgical, these sexual moments. And in The Brood, it's always there's always an element of sexuality to it, but it's more about like, you know, Oliver Reed, the psychiatrist, trying to this new treatment where someone's mental
psycho.
problems comes out in other parts of the body, right? And
Yeah.
it's not working out real well for anybody.
No,
It's not working
it's
out. The
not at all.
one guy's in a mental institution has these painful things coming out of his back. Not solved. Not solved. Again, you know, mental health and physical health are the same. You put the insurance together. So we're a long way from that. So far away.
So
Um,
far.
yeah, and then another reason why mental health is stigmatized as like something that just happens to crazy people as opposed to it's something that everyone regulates.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, but Crimes of the Future also having it be fashion and a performance piece, and how Viggo, like you could like, if it was me in open surgery, it wouldn't be like, it'd be like, ooh, I don't
Yeah.
know. You know, like, I'm not crazy about
Oh
this.
yeah. Well, it's yeah, well, it's so fascinating that here's a man who, for all intents and purposes, is being kept in a world of perpetual pain. And it's the idea of like, is he doing this? Who is he doing this for? Is this just because he believes that this is his lot in life, or is it legitimately, or does he believe that this is what is meant for him? I mean, he does. I mean, the end of the movie is, for what I spoilers everybody, but the movie to me resolves with him finally realizing, no, he doesn't have to live this life where he is everyone's toy, for all intents and purposes. Even the woman who Leia Seydoux character, who he thought was like his caretaker the entire time. In the end, he's just like a sex toy to her, practically.
Hmm. Oh, and you know,
Yeah,
it's okay to enjoy that for a period of time, and then, you know, you might grow out of it. You know, it doesn't mean it's
exactly.
wrong. I mean, that's my view on it. I don't think that's the exact message that the movie was going for,
Yeah.
but him coming, the movie was about him coming, being in, starting to be in that part of his life and realization that
Hmm.
this isn't what I wanted it to be, and it wasn't. exactly. I didn't really look at the whole picture, but you liked
Hmm.
it at the time. That's okay. That's what I
Yeah,
say. That's okay. You liked it. There's nothing wrong with that. No harm
yeah.
done. Well, kind of, but
Yeah, there's very clearly no rancor he has towards her afterwards. It's just he's now realizing that an option actually does come that is frowned upon by the rest of society that he didn't think was an option until he tries it. And then he's realizing, oh shit, I can actually move beyond this and actually have something resembling a sane existence.
but then it's hard. Like, what then? Sane existences, like in films, is like, what then? Like when you think of
Yeah,
not a horror movie at all, but The Graduate, like when they have that big moment where they run away off the church and they're on the bus and they're like, oh, what now?
yeah.
You
It's
know?
like, and it's that wonderful dissection of the classic Hollywood ending where it's like, yeah, you run off with your true love, but then you realize, oh shit, we didn't plan this. We
And we
didn't
didn't
think
know if
about
this is
what.
a good, we don't know if this is a good idea. And
Yeah.
have you seen Beach Bum with
No,
Matthew
with
McConaughey? It's
no, I
an
have not.
Harmony Korine movie. Uh,
Oh,
do you mind if I spoil it for you a little
sure,
bit?
go right ahead. Yeah.
It's one of those movies where he kind of just takes no responsibility for anything in life and he's living that Jimmy Buffett lifestyle, right? Okay.
Hmm.
Florida. You're in Florida. I'm not that I'm saying you're a Jimmy Buffett fan, nothing wrong with that.
I really
Um,
am not.
hey, Margaritaville is a good song. I don't really know any of the others. But I know there's one called Cheeseburger in Paradise, but I don't know how it sounds. Um, Anyway, and then usually in those types of narrative films, he learns a lesson, right? Or things don't go well for him, but it's Harmony Korine creates an ending where that character forgets to fail and just it's very well done. I can't describe it as well. It is done. So even though you know that, it doesn't
Hmm.
spoil the movie at all. And I don't know if Cronenberg's a fan of Harmony Korine, but I love whenever I see John Carpenter talk about in different interviews about Cronenberg because he's like says it like it
Yeah.
is, like Eli Roth and his Hollywood hair. Or I love John Carpenter. He's like and
Oh,
and
there's such a refreshing lack of bullshit about that man, which I adore. I
I
mean,
do too. And he's like, hey, he was a nice kid, talking about Cronenberg. He's a nice kid. But now he's an artist, I guess.
see
And then
yeah, people tend to think that about Cronenberg that here he is like this very serious auteur, but then in the end you realize no, he loves doing wild shit just as much as everyone else. I mean, one of my favorite things about him is that he wanted to be in Jason X just for the prospect of being killed by Jason.
I mean, I
And
didn't
that
even know that. That's so fun.
Yeah. And it's like these are things about Cronenberg that people don't seem to realize is that he's not as serious as as he makes him out to be. He's very passionate about the stuff he makes films about, but ultimately he's a guy who does this in aid of the fact that he just is loves life and he'll do whatever, even down to the fact that even in his latter years, most people retire. He's like, no, I'm just going to keep embracing life and making movies as long as I can.
And then, wanting to be in Star Trek. Like, ooh, can I
Yeah.
can I do it? He can be very serious. It depends on where David Lynch didn't want to really describe things. Cronenberg does a little bit. I mean, in waxing and waning of the idea behind, because people ask him about the body horror all the time. And,
Hmm.
when Shivers came out, um, he was kicked out of his apartment complex because of the moral issue, like some moral issue, client, he was kicked out of his apartment because of that movie, and
Yeesh.
he was shunned. Well, the thing is, he had done Stereo and Crimes of the Future, the first one when he was a student film, and then Cinepix run by two guys, the Cinepixies, and they're called that because of the production title. It's not a
Hmm.
stereotype. The Cinepixies, and they mostly made that, as Joe Bob Briggs would call it, maple syrup porn. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And David Cronenberg was interested. He's like, I really kind of want to bring myself to this. This is because they would be feature length films. And they're like, well, we love what you do, but we don't know how to take what you do and put it into our films. And then, what does an international company do when they want to try and get their films into America? Who do they go to back in the day? Not anymore. Who do they go
Yeah.
to?
You give me a suspense. Is it
They go to
like
American International Pictures, Roger Corman.
AIP? That's right. Yeah, to go to AIP.
And they didn't get
Oh
enough
yeah.
funding for it there. And he got a grant from the Canadian government. And the Canadian people were really upset. Like, you used this grant to make this movie, which actually made the mo was the Canadian film that had made enough returns to the taxpayers. So you
Yeah.
can't how much can you complain, you know?
Oh, that's always the sick lie of the critical elite is like, they want to make, put money into film projects to show they support the arts, but then the one thing that makes them a shit ton of money is something that they in their own repressed way say like, oh my God, it's a complete, a base debasement of moral integrity. And that's the one that gets them the most money. And they're like, I don't know what to do with that. And they can't, and it drives you crazy that they just loosen the hell up and actually watch. And odds are, a lot of times they never watch the movie to realize a statement's actually being made uh, with the movie. I mean, when I watched Shivers for the first time, I knew there was an intention going on with this movie. And actually, right in preparation for this, I read a fascinating blurb Cronenberg said about this movie, where he said that the thing that you actually wind up are meant to sympathize with is the parasite itself, because the parasite, for all intents and purposes, is
It
yeah,
didn't
as
ask to
far as
exist.
yeah,
It,
and all it's doing is, and funny enough, everyone who's being affected by it, they are actually kind of turning into this collective hive where they all end up wanting the same thing, and the guy who we think is supposed to be our main character is the guy running around freaking out, because here they are in his mind acting like abominations. And it's like, oh, gee, I wonder what this could be a metaphor for. It could be a metaphor. Well, actually, around this time, I think around the time the movie came out, would this have been during the sexual liberation movement?
sexual liberation movement, I think of the 60s, but
Yeah.
I don't know, but I doubt there's just one iteration of that. But
Yeah.
the idea of this apartment complex and how we're introduced to this apartment complex by kind of like a travel video, like come live here and it's a good,
Yeah.
it's a wholesome place to live, and look at these, sterling cabinets. Who's maybe the knobs are sterling. Go with me on this. Um,
I'm with
and
it.
that it's kind of like we all have our secret deprived lives. I mean, not as much as one of the beginning scenes we see, and before we know that there's these slugs, these slugs
Mm,
that is the virus going into
yeah.
people. We see a woman dressed like not a Boy Scout, but like she's dressed like a young man. And this older guy is assaulting her, really. And then
Mm,
he does end up killing her, and he's opening up her stomach, and we're like, "Excuse me? What's happening?" Because that's how the movie starts pretty much after they introduce this apartment complex first before we learn about the virus, before we anything. So I think it's like definitely kind of like a lot of Oscar Wilde, or you think of anything that says anything against Victorian polite society, and so it's that. Yes. I mean, I don't know if it's about any particular revolution, but it is definitely about, you know, we can judge each other as much as we want, but we all have our private things. I mean, even though some of us are quite vanilla, that doesn't matter, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So it's like
Exactly.
there's the facade, but when the door is closed, who knows? And then what happens if it's repressed? It starts bursting out into the hallways, bursting out into the elevator, and eventually you're in a pool and they're all around you, dude. You're done. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah, and funny enough, his next film after that was Rabid, and that actually kind of almost on a narrative level, kind of has that same thing. Well, it kind of progresses in a similar way where just all out chaos comes about from just something so simple and so innocent, and it just like, I mean,
It sounds
I
like a
st
good
yeah,
idea. It
yeah,
sounds like a good idea. And, a lot of people have pointed out it's interesting because people didn't know what stem cells were back then. This is
yeah.
something people point out a lot. And
Well, Cronenberg himself, wasn't he? He was a med student, I think, as well, wasn't he? Or
one
didn't
moment, I'm
he?
sorry.
That's okay.
Biochemistry.
Ah, there we go. Okay, yeah. I'm trying to remember which director was the med student. I think that was Craven. I think Craven was that. Anyway,
I don't know. But no, Cronenberg was into biochemistry. He was dual majoring in biochemistry and literature. And then he had seen his friends in films, and he just like that's something you could do, you know.
hmm
Baba originally was trying to be a sculptor. No, a
mm,
painter, and then his dad, who was also a cinematographer, wanted to be a
yeah.
sculptor, and then they ended up making movies. So,
Same thing with Lynch. Lynch was a painter as well,
yeah.
I believe. Yeah, he was an artist first before he took up film.
So was John Barrymore Sr. He didn't want to join his acting family. It's true. I say it funny, but it's true. He didn't want to join his acting family. This would be Drew Barrymore's
Grandfather, I believe.
great grandfather or grandfather. Yes.
Yeah.
No, great grandfather. And then
Okay.
yeah, because there's a lot of them from like the Booth family. Um,
No.
I'm more of a fan of Edwin Booth, but he, probably was a piece of shit too. But it's like one of
Uh,
those things.
exactly.
I brought nerdy his
Okay.
stupid history into it.
What? Well, everything we all right. No. Nothing is stupid
I'm
enough.
not serious.
Yeah.
I just poked fun
Yeah,
at
I was
myself.
gonna say, well, for all intents and purposes, everything we do on and whenever two horror fans get together, we are discussing history. So it's all history. That's all there is to
Mhm.
it. Yeah, so don't so never be ashamed of being enthusiastic about history because Lord knows I am always intrigued to find out about things that I do not know about, and I always love hearing it from people who do know way more than me because what was it? Socrates said, the only true wisdom is knowing that we know nothing.
I believe in that. And the more you know,
Yeah,
the more nothing you know. You know what I mean? Like you're like,
exactly.
wow, I just learned more. And learning more made me realize there's even more I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Revelation is but a door, and when you open the door, there's a whole other room on the other end full of things you still have yet not discovered. So, what is that? Yeah, that is all it is. In the end, it's all a progression. There's no, and anyone, yeah, we are on a very interesting tangent here, but funny enough, it still feels right in relation to Cronenberg because Cronenberg
What
is the
would you
kind.
think of what Freud would think of Cronenberg? I know that a lot of Freud's ideas of oral or anal fixation are about toddlers. But like the stage of, it's not like as, you know, but
I don't, yeah.
I,
I don't pretend to be an expert on Freud, so
I'm not
yeah,
an
you would know
expert
better than I.
either, but as a horror person, two very important books about women in horror, which, oh, look,
Hmm.
David Cronenberg interviews. You probably can't see, but it's there.
Yeah.
Um, David Cronenberg interviews is the black
Yeah.
one. Um, uh, just real brief, and then we'll get back to Daddy Body Horror.
Yep.
Um, Monstrous Frem, and then the one of the quintessentials, not just about the men, women, and chainsaws. Both
Ah.
women use both Barbara Creed and Carol J. Clover use analytics, not analytics. My brain's pausing for me. What psychoanalysis. They both use psychoanalysis, which is very Freudian, and they use a lot of Freudian things to talk about gender and when it comes to the archaic mother and all that kind of stuff. And I like a lot of the newer publications because, like Psychotic Women is a really good
Uh-huh.
one because she also brings her personal experience. And I will say I do recommend yeah, Psychoanalysis, Barbara Creed's book, but it's a little bit more denser, even more so than Clover's. And like it's
Hmm.
like we're really deep into what Freud was talking about, and he contradicted himself. It's
Yeah,
easier to talk
totally.
about Jung's archetypes and Joseph Campbell, who was an anti-Semite, so boo to that. So just keep
Yeah.
that in mind. But the hero's journey is a pivotal tool. Did
Yeah.
you think
Yeah.
do you think the main characters in Cronenberg's films are heroes, anti-heroes, or just antagonists, regular people? It's kind of hard to pinpoint the
That is
end.
a yeah, that's a good question because I did get a chance to go back and uh watch The Fly. Also, what was another one I rewatched recently? Crimes of the Future. Among
Videodrome?
other oh, and The Brood, actually. No, The Brood is another one I sat down and rewatched. And that is something to think about. Nothing about I think the only character in a Cronenberg movie that I could say is truly a hero character. And only because, not because of Cronenberg, but because of the source novel that it was based on, would be The Dead Zone, would
Oh,
be Christopher Walken's
absolutely.
character. And a lot of that really comes more from the fact that it's Stephen
Stephen
King.
King
Because
is a big
yeah,
old humanist.
exactly.
And I
And in
think
fact,
Cronenberg is too, but he's more surgical about it.
exactly. And it's kind of blows my mind that of all the things Cronenberg has done in his career, that is still the weirdest movie that I think he's ever directed because it veers into territory that he himself usually tends to veer away from, especially when it comes to spiritualism. Even though the Dead Zone it can be rooted in science for the most part, especially just the notion of being able to see into the past and the future.
Hey, you're just really
But
perceptive.
yeah, you're just exceptionally perceptive. I think Cronenberg was able to kind of bring it back to something that is in his wheelhouse. But yeah, I'd say. But when you think of even when you think about a character like Seth Brundle in The Fly, Seth Brundle is, he's in the beginning when you meet him, he's a wide-eyed, enthusiastic person who just wants to do something great that could change the world. And the way Jeff Goldblum plays it, there's no sense of ego about it. You don't get the vibe that there's an ego about it. But as
It's an
he,
obsession. Like
yeah.
I think there's parts of Brundlefly when we first meet him because he's so obsessed with his work, and it just is amplified by the progression of Brundlefly.
Exactly. But fascinating thing about that movie is that you can still find this guy lovable, and hence, yeah, and that's essential because you have to believe this
Gina
love story
Davis
that
makes
forms.
it for
Yeah,
me. She's
exactly.
her
Oh
she
yeah.
just will have a look on her face, and you can see how much she loves him, and sometimes how much she loves him, how terrified she is of him later on.
Hmm.
But oh my God, that shit,
She
I'm a big
such an
go. Sorry.
yeah. No, I was gonna say it's such an emotional tug of war she puts herself through that movie. It's like on one side she wants desperately to have the man that she loved, because that whole movie, and many people have, I'm not doing saying anything new on this, but that whole movie, many people have said, has been a considered to be a metaphor for watching a loved one die from disease
Oh no,
and
that's
just watching them
exactly
be,
what
yeah,
Cronenberg told Gina Davis.
yeah,
And it's about his
and
mother dying of cancer, and a lot of people attribute it to the AIDS crisis of the time, which a lot of people have said. But generally, it's a lot about, yeah, seeing a loved one become not only sick and dying, but that affects them mentally as well, because mental health and
hmm
physical health are the same thing, right? And that
yeah,
sometimes when somebody is really sick, they're not going to be exactly themselves. Like when people get forms of dementia or Alzheimer's later in life, like a person that, like a family member of mine way back in the day, like they never swore and then they start swearing, and it's like part
yeah.
of that disintegration of the mind with the body.
Yeah, and one could say that Cronenberg's been tackling that going all the way back to Rabid. In that case, that's a case of someone who is knows that there's something profoundly wrong with them, but is so terrified of the idea that even though they are the one causing all this pain and all this,
And she didn't consent
chaos,
to this
she,
experimental
yeah,
treatment because like she couldn't. She was gonna die. Or no,
yeah,
not gonna die, but the skin graft, that's what we're talking about, the stem cells. Like people didn't
yeah,
know about stem cells then. I don't think they used the word in the movie, but the idea
yeah,
that they're gonna use so it's not exactly life-saving, I guess, skin from her thigh, but before I think they're gonna use they were going to do a treatment on her face that turns the tissue into new tissue, like
Hmm.
undefined tissue, which would be stem cells, right? It hasn't been assigned anything. So instead of
Yeah.
having a mismatch of the different skin textures, it would adapt and become what it
Hmm.
originally was. And wow, side effects, crazy. Wouldn't expect that.
Yeah. But ultimately, the whole thing with her is that she deep down knows that she's responsible for all the chaos happening around her, but she is so scared about losing herself. But unfortunately, this thing that she has now been saddled with is the thing that's taking her over. That's anyone who has ever had, who just wants to live and just wants to exist, but unfortunately, it just can't cope with the horrible reality that that's just not an option anymore.
I
And
mean, and you feel bad for her, even though
yeah,
there's like a moment where you're kind of like, I don't want to die either. Don't get me wrong, but like, the guy's like, you're basically the plague, but I'm still Rose though, and I'm like,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I don't think I could be responsible for that many people's deaths. Um,
Yeah,
but
I'd have to, yeah. I mean,
but it's a
these
hard
aren't,
position. I mean, it's easy to
yeah,
say now that I would do the right thing, but would I? And that's part of what Cronenberg brings us into.
yeah, precisely. And even going into, and now the first film, like going through his filmography, I'd say like the first film I'd say that was truly like Cronenberg's declaration that he has arrived. I'd say that was The Brood. And fascinatingly enough, that movie came about because at the time he had just gotten a divorce and apparently a very messy one.
Okay, can I say something about that?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so I love The Brood. I find parts of it problematic.
Oh,
I get
yes.
I get that it's about generational trauma, but I think it's handled could have been handled better. Again, things can have kinks in them, and I still love that movie. But
Yeah.
imagine being the woman or just being anybody and the person you're divorcing is a famous film director and they make The Brood and it's like I'm like okay, I
That
admit
did
I'm not a perfect person. I'm not a
that did
perfect, but
enter my
I am. Was
brain.
I that bad? Come on, was I that
That
bad? Come
that
on.
did enter my brain. That did enter my brain. I was thinking about because I
Nothing
it's
against
funny.
David, but it's like I would never tell that it was about my divorce. I would just say I was
Yeah.
dealing with certain things at the time.
I got to I always respect someone's candor about and at least a good thing it did happen to him. Afterwards, he did meet his wife, who he worked with on the set of, I think it was the set of Rabid. He then subsequently met someone else, got married to them, and that's when he had both Brandon and Caitlin at that point.
Oh, so he
So
initiated it. Boo hoo, David. I still like you, but boo hoo.
yeah,
Their personal life is not my life, but come
yeah,
on. Although
yeah.
I'm glad the movie exists. It's fantastic. The idea. I think I would love for not The Brood to be remade. I think it's
No,
done well, but keeping that idea of the psychological becoming physical. Like for one man, it's just like these painful,
yeah.
inhuman looking things on his back that cause him extreme pain, and he still mentally isn't doing well. And it's made his mental
Hmm.
health worse. And then
Oh
for
yeah.
her, like she, which
All
I
the
believe is a
rage. Yeah, it's kind of like the rage kind of ends up manifesting out into this umbilicus that she ends up like forming like right down
It's
there.
it's rage and also especially since they're these unformed children, like these ideas of young, impressionable, but also angry because
Yeah.
she's angry, but it's also about generational traumas. And that's part of
Mm.
what it was troublesome, like because her character, who's like, and she's so gorgeous. And then when she does, what does she
Yeah,
say?
we
She's like, you're disgusted by me.
trusted by me.
I feel her, I mean, I've never
Yeah.
had a sack growing outside of me, like that. So I'm not going to say I can relate, but you're disgusted by me. It's similar
Yeah.
to what's very
Which
popular with women right now is why are you gonna go? What did I do? If I didn't do anything wrong, why are you leaving?
yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Which incidentally, I was
yeah,
gonna say, since we're on the subject, we should probably acknowledge rest in peace, Samantha Egger. We just
yeah,
lost her just a couple days ago. As of recording, we just lost her a couple days ago.
sad
So
man.
yeah, and I applaud any actress who's willing to commit to a pretty damn. I remember the first time I saw that scene, long time. Do you remember the Bravo's 100 scariest movie moments list?
I
All the
do.
way back in 2004.
Yeah.
That scene in The Brood where she licks off the fetus was that scene. And I remember almost throwing up the first time I saw it. Now I can watch it just going, it was that is that Canadian maple syrup with red dye that she's licking off there or something like that? What is
There's
that?
one movie I can recommend to you.
Uh,
Well, I recommend it anyway.
mm.
It's Andrzej Zulawski's Third Part of the Night, and
Oh,
I thought it was a real birth, and but it's not. It's not. But it looked
okay.
like I saw a real birth. But actually, you kind of do. It's just edited really well. You do see the baby coming out, but it's not. Like I like it's so convincing. I thought I'm like probably not, but it seems like I just saw that actress give birth to a baby. Like oh my God,
Oh,
which
that's
is
wild.
but it's done in the concept of this sac and her giving birth and she has these feelings and our feelings kind of taking this aggression, like
Hmm.
we were trying to fight in the brood, trying to fight the teacher, because of the jealousy thing and all of that.
Hmm.
And then the daughter, Kathy, it's kind of the idea that that's part of the part that's hard for me. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. And it where well, Kathy's the name of the daughter, isn't it?
Um, no, Candy. I think it was
Candy.
Candace.
Candy.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, and yeah. I think. Well, the thing I took away from just yeah, you're right. Generational trauma is the big thing, but it is about the idea of that parents, when they go through a messy divorce, they a lot of times in the midst of it don't like really bad parents really don't take into account how this does affect their kids
oh
one
yeah,
form or
because
another.
no breakup, even when without kids, those aren't the best memories. You can have wonderful memories of someone from a past relationship, but we're at not at our best. Both sides are not at
Mm,
their best when the breaking up happens. And I've never had children, so I wouldn't know. But you know, I worry I stress my dogs out sometimes. You know,
yeah.
you know what I mean? Which is not the same thing, but the idea because they're so set and they're very sensitive. Um,
Mhm.
but I can't imagine going through that and then also wanting to protect your kids and let them know they're safe and this has nothing to do with them. And, it's scary for them. They grew up with their parents and now their parents are splitting apart. It's like,
Yeah.
it's when, especially the younger you are, it's harder to understand.
And even
My,
by
my parents were
extension,
divorced before I was born, so it was easy for me.
yeah. Yeah, but even by extension, what's even more foreboding, and you can now, I do agree. Now, funny enough, when you said it, I was thinking that when I was rewatching, like going, yeah, you could tell that there's a problematic aspect of this movie, especially thinking about the
Women be
origins of it.
crazy, okay? That's a
But
little bit, it's a little bit in there. Women be crazy, okay?
but funny enough, you could, if they did remake it, to be honest, it would be fascinating if they swapped genders of the characters. Specifically because just to show how universal the idea is, where a lot of times like someone in the marriage that goes bad, they'll go on and have kids, but they'll have so much unresolved anger and so much like baggage from the previous marriage that they end up putting that rage into the kids they have in any kind of subsequent anything they have afterwards,
Hey,
which is
that is
why
Freud's feedback loop that when you don't heal from trauma, you're just going to create the same trauma with new people again.
precisely, and that's why I loved the whole angle that she spawns these faceless, like emotionless kids that just are just balls out an extension of her rage. I that was the part aspect of it I found most fascinating because it's like, yeah, it's like having kids is a big ass responsibility, and a lot of the stuff that you have in your brain, you don't know it or not, you are inflicting it upon them, and the kids don't ask for that. Gonna unpack a little bit for myself, but for me, I mean, I've had dark thoughts, and a lot of it existentially based because, I've had one of those parents who lorded it over me, saying like, doing the whole like, I gave you life and all that shit, and I'm like going like, I never asked. You
Hmm.
never, children never ask for the bullshit you inflict upon them.
I gotta have a different life if you weren't here. And it's like, well, you had me, so
You
I'm
had
here.
me.
Sorry.
Condoms are cheaper than raising a kid, you know? It's like,
Were you a surprise
and
baby?
oh dear God, I I love. Okay, we should have been friends a long time ago, but the fact that that is the word, the exact freaking word that you said, pretty much answers the question right there. Yes,
Ah,
yes.
that's not a good thing. I'm sorry.
No, no, it's not a good. Well, here's the thing: the fact that I can laugh about it now with
Yeah.
you tells is a good positive thing to the audience to let them know that I have not only come to terms with it, but in like any great comedian, learn to laugh about it. So,
And
that is,
horror is, and you and I are people among a lot of other wonderful people within the horror community that finds humor and a companionable darkness. Sometimes everyone's different with disturbing or graphic tales. I mean, it's not something
yeah,
I feel like I chose, like this is how I'm going to deal with it. It just is. Like, and
it's
I
just some,
understand
yeah.
some people that have been through a lot of physical trauma, they can't watch anything like that has anything serious, and that's fine too, you
Yeah,
know?
absolutely. And sometimes when they have, they do because it shows that it assures them that they are not alone, that there are people who feel what they feel and are able to express it in a way that they themselves can latch onto it and feel like, you know what, I feel better because I know that I'm not alone and that someone has taken their pain, put it on screen, and through their art, were able to help me figure out a way to cope with it my own self.
Hmm.
I think that's a vital gift to what Cronenberg himself has done because a lot of his films are about well, actually, Guillermo del Toro said it best in that aforementioned Bravo's list. He said about Cronenberg, he said that we as humanity are as a human race, we are not at peace with our bodies like at all. This is our temple. Everything we have here is a temple. There's a reason that phrase, my body is a temple. And like any temple, you need to keep it maintained and you need to keep it because this is where you live. This is where everything that is you lives. And there's a reason. I mean, hypochondriacs exist because they are obsessed with even the slightest thing going wrong with their body. And there are people who become so self-conscious about it that they freak out and that they become very uh collected and very like shut off. Sometimes people actually dead ringers, I realized I had this revelation about dead ringers, is that these are two people who have lived their life practically joined at the hip, that they've had this symbiotic existence for the longest time, but at the second they start drifting apart, one just collapses and just
Yeah.
goes, yeah, and it
Codependency.
yeah, precisely. And I love the fact that Cronenberg made a movie that did a great job showing showing how some people's connections with each other can be so powerful and so profound that it can be so fragile if anything happens to upset that particular balance. So I find it so it's great that even though Cronenberg himself is an atheist and someone who does not believe in the concept of the soul, it's still fascinating to me that he is still able to convey such poignant humanistic themes in his stories in lieu of that.
I mean, that's his goal, really, it seems, is that I myself am agnostic. I have nothing as long as someone's polite
Yeah.
about their religion or non-religion. And so, but the that's his goal, is to say that the humanistic parts of us, the meat sacks we are, whether we're sexy or not, because he has a lot of which I will ask you a question in a second,
Okay.
that it is precious. Life, he's an atheist that says, oh, isn't like, everything's gonna be nothing. Bah, bah. He's like, that's why life is so precious, and that's why, and also maybe sometimes we take for granted. And this is something he hasn't said, but I'm just thinking of the body, and as we age, because he talked a lot of is connected to death, like crashes, like it's about sexuality and this malaise, and it's like our connection to death and
Hmm.
sexuality and terror. um it's a great movie. Anyway,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it is so precious, and then you never know. People get diagnosed all the time with
Hmm.
illnesses, and as we get older, it's gonna happen one way or the other. So it's the idea that to treasure the body now, and also to regulate the body now, the mind. Not that he's directly saying take care of yourself. Wink. It's
Yeah.
like, But what do you feel about sexuality in David Cronenberg's body horror, which is always pretty apparent? Not Shivers, it's all about that, but it feels less sexual. But how do you feel about it?
Well, admittedly though, just for lack of availability, I haven't gotten a chance to see Crash yet. I know the central theme, but to me, it seems natural. It seems perfectly natural to discuss the matter because, uh, and funny enough, a long time ago, like in the early days of this podcast, we did a whole thing talking about sexuality and horror. But to me, uh, that is like one of the frontiers of human experience that uh the problem is we live in a society that does that completely vilifies anyone who dares to explore sexuality, and because of that there are a lot of people in this world who explore it in ways that are definitely not safe because there's no safe environment to be made for it. So now, for people who have not seen it, go ahead and give kind of like a rundown of Crash, because that is actually one that I can't find anywhere for streaming because I wanted to watch that one.
Oh, I just bought the disc, baby. Um,
Uh, Physical
uh,
media forever.
and I read the book, and the book is feels more raw, perverse, sleazy and then Cronenberg comes into it, and it feels more surgical. So, but with there's a lot of sexual things we see happening, but and maybe some people get turned on more than I would, and there's nothing wrong with that. But basically, Crash is there's a couple, James Spader and his wife. They have an open relationship, like they have sex with other people and they try
Hmm.
different things, and they have this general malaise about it, like they feel bored. Like they're trying to figure something out that works for them, but they get in a car crash, and James Spader kind of connects with this woman in the other car who is a part of this group who are sexually attracted to to car crashes. And in the book, Vaughn, who's the main guy in this whole thing, he especially wants to die in a car crash, crashing his car into Liz Taylor's car together, and it's like this orgasmic thing that happens. In Cronenberg's movie, Vaughn doesn't want to kill anybody. It's less violent in that sense, but it's still very violent. He wants to just recreate the James Dean accident, and
Oh,
recreating these things. Where in the book, it's like, I'm gonna die orgasmically with Liz Taylor, and not actually touching her, just through a car crash. Oh, it doesn't
yeah.
happen. Liz was okay in the book. Uh, so it's a lot about this exploration about that, and there also is, uh, fluidity about gender, and there is gay sex in it as well,
Okay.
which wasn't when it went to the Cannes Film Festival.
Yeah.
It Francis Ford Coppola is like, this is disgusting. This isn't gonna win the Palme d'Or. Gross. And to be fair, a lot of people were also talking about, well, we see a lot of the women naked. We don't see the men naked, and that's a fair assessment.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Equal
As
rights
Darcy
mean
would say,
yeah.
release the weens, the penises. I mean,
Yeah. Or actually, Dead Meat said it best, said equal rights means equal sights.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
But so agreed. But that wasn't the main issue of it. But the rest of the jury got together and gave Cronenberg an award had never given out and have not given out since, of
The special
innovation
jury
and
prize.
yeah,
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 special
special.
jury prize. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, because it's a wild movie. It's one of his most, and I hate to use such a basic term, atmospheric films, where there's a
Hmm.
lot of, you feel like you're in a tunnel, a silent tunnel of time and moment where things freeze, and it feels like there's this loneliness, even though they're in a city, and there's this sense of loneliness, the sense of time not existing, the sense of coldness, surgical. And there are some moments that most people consider, wow, that's kind of hot. You know what? But
Yeah.
it's a great film. And what do you so yeah, I'd asked you about that. But even in um like especially Videodrome. It's very sexual
Oh,
and back
extremely.
into once Cronenberg started went back into his body horror with Crimes of the Future. He has that it's sexual. Doing the surgery is sexual, and he had
Yeah.
yeah. So what do you feel? How do you feel about that?
Um, Actually, I'm glad we're veering into Videodrome because the wonderful thing about that movie is that is kind of about when things about us that we didn't think about ourselves are kind of unlocked through our visual media. I mean, the whole thing about Max Wren, I mean, he's already kind of a scumbag, but there's things I'm pretty sure he didn't think he ever thought that I don't think he ever imagined that things would be unlocked with himself. The idea that he could become sexually aroused by just visual aids. So it's
It's
such a
about kind of
complicated.
about but it's compli it is complicated.
Yeah,
It's a
it's
compli
so complicated.
It's about, I think a lot of it's about participation. I think a lot of it's
Yeah.
about confusion and discovery, and also just generally being
Well,
horny for
even
something is like it's better than like kind of really focuses on the physical obsession as well as a mental obsession with like in Videodrome it's with the media with media, and then in Crash it's about death and terror and metal and mixing up with these cars. It's hard to describe what it's actually, but
it's
and then
well, it's I suppose as kind of an addendum, it may even be about the idea that how many times we see it portrayed, even in fiction or even just in any of our media, and how inevitably it kind of cultivates the fantasy. And it's like how often inevitably do we expose ourselves to the fantasy before we ourselves decide to act on it,
mhm.
you
Even
know,
though
in
yeah,
our
that's very well said, even if it's not in our terms sexual, but portraying it in the film sexually I think gives it certain context.
yeah,
You
and I
know, and
loved how
maybe he's a little bit of
Videodrome.
a freak. Who knows? Good for him. I don't know. I am
Yeah, we
not
don't.
assuming. I'm not assuming. If he
Yeah,
is,
we
good for
yeah.
him. If he isn't, good for him too.
I'm just glad that if he is, I am very glad that he has found a way to channel it in a way that is healthy and that it is safe and that no one gets hurt
That is
because,
consensual with
and
the
that is
actresses,
consensual.
yeah.
Precisely. Oh no, that's why I do love that we live in the age of intimacy coordinators specifically, so that way people feel comfortable on set. And even if actually, recently, one film that is very sexually driven, which I loved, I don't know if you saw Suitable Flesh, a film I just freaking adored.
Oh, I
Um,
did say yes.
the thing I loved about the production of that is that Barbara Crampton, Joe Lynch, everyone involved in all the intimacy scenes, all actually had a sit down to talk about, do we need an intimacy coordinator? And all of them actually had this discussion around the table of going, no, we feel very comfortable with each other that we can do this, that we feel comfortable with each other, that we can do these scenes, and that we won't feel awkward because we are in, even just the fact that we are sitting down and having this discussion now is more than is done in a lot of other sets, especially way back in the day. Like especially during Cronenberg's early days when he was doing movies with that featured this kind of content. It's great when a director can make people feel comfortable to do to do scenes like the ones portrayed, especially stuff like in Videodrome or even hell, even in his non-horror field. There's a sex scene in A History of Violence, which I was like going, God damn, that must have been painful. And I hope against hope, Maria Bello and Viggo Mortensen communicated with each other during that scene.
I'm not sure. Just a silly little fact. History of Violence was the last mass-produced VHS. Just a
Yes,
happenstance. Just a
yeah,
happenstance. There's no really
I
reason for it.
yeah, I worked at Blockbuster around the time that one came out, and so yeah, I vividly remember this shift afterwards. I didn't mind just because DVD was in many respects better. No disrespect to the collectors, DVDs fit better on your shelf than VHS do. That being said, VHS do have cooler covers.
That's true. But
Yeah.
also when I think of Crash, there's a scene where he how crass can I be?
Oh, fuck it. Go nuts.
There's a scene where he has sex with her wound, which is not even that crass, but I just
I've heard about this
I
scene.
would say yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But the actress, she said she had, met James Spader that day and then they just did that scene. She seemed fine with it, but doesn't sound like there was as much of an intimacy coordinator for that. And I think
Yeah.
also I also wanted to mention in the idea of what Crash is about is trauma bonding as well.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Okay. Well,
And also in
yeah.
Eastern Promises, which I haven't seen, but I have read about that. I think it was, I don't know if it was Bravo or Vice. There's also a Vice thing out about Cronenberg, um, where Guillermo del Toro is talking about the scene, and I have not seen this movie, but there's a fight, like a really
Yes.
raw fight, and one actor is completely nude, and he asks, "Whoa, you must have coordinated that so well." He's like, "No,
Yeah.
we just went up." So hopefully everyone was fine. So, maybe he's a little bit more up to date. I haven't heard anyone complain working with him, but that doesn't mean so there are instances where people said, "No, we just jumped right into it," but in those instances they seemed fine with it as far as I know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, in what research I could do, I never heard about anybody feeling comfortable. It seems to me Cronenberg, and I'd be shocked if Cronenberg was not the kind of director who failed to communicate intent. He never strikes me as a William Friedkin who will just keep shooting even though an actor is in physical agony, or
Yeah.
like a Kubrick who will
Or
mentally
Fritz
gag,
Lang.
or Fritz Lang. Cronenberg strikes me as a person who legitimately respects his actors and feels the necessity to communicate
Hmm.
with all of them. I mean, that would definitely account for why a lot of actors have come back consistently to work with him. I mean, Viggo Mortensen and Cronenberg consistently work together like a lot, uh, through all of the time. So it seems like
I
I've
love
never
him
heard
in
it.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3.
Oh yeah, though I don't know if he's a touch on Matthew McConaughey going "Dude, bah!"
Well, that's
or
before Matthew McConaughey,
oh yeah,
get
yeah,
that bitch, which is play on Chop Top,
yeah.
get that
No one,
bitch.
yeah, no one's a touch on Bill. No one's a touch on Bill Mosley.
He's one of the coolest guys in horror.
I adore Bill. Every time I've met him, he's just been a big old ball of sweetness. Yeah.
Um,
So
so you were talking earlier before we started recording that you think Spider was one of the more, if not your first Cronenberg
yeah.
films, but first one that really hit you. Why is that?
Okay, yeah, for those who do not know, Spider is actually one of Cronenberg's more obscure films, and it's a beautiful film that stars Ray Fiennes, Miranda Richardson, and Gabriel Byrne. So for those who do not know, it tells the story of a man who is returning from years in a mental institution. Obviously, having nowhere else to go, he goes back to his childhood home, but unfortunately, all the traumas that came about, the things that pretty much led him into the asylum, they're all still there, and you see him reliving the horrors that led him into the mental institution to begin with. And the whole movie to me was just a big old exploration about the idea of about what happens when you don't communicate with a kid. Like, because the whole thing is that his mom, in originally as a child, he was a very awkward kid. I would even wager. Admittedly, it's been decades since I saw it, but it seemed like he may have been a kid on the spectrum. And around the time period it takes place in, that at least when he was a child, that was during a time when there wasn't really a proper
It wasn't
diagnosis.
understood.
It wasn't understood as well, and unfortunately, he was not in a good environment where where he could be communicated with. And his mother hooked up with another man, and this man was played by Gabriel Byrne, was not in any shape, way, or form a sympathetic father figure or one that was prepared to understand or at least bond with the kid. And as a result, things just
Even if he
completely,
was able to communicate, it seemed like he would like, oh, damn it, she's got a kid. Well, whatever.
yeah. But because of all this, I'll try to remain spoiler free. But basically, something bad happens that unfortunately necessitates Spider, the main character, the titular character, being put away. But because there really was never a kind of proper understanding of what the nature of his psychosis is, as soon as he comes back, it just all of a sudden just comes flooding back and just he relapses
Hmm.
as a result of it. I mean, that was a film that now, admittedly, I'm not sure if that was the best first Cronenberg movie I could have ever watched, but it was one that definitely told me that Cronenberg was not your garden variety director. It was one that definitely told me that this is a guy who really does understand intricacies of human nature that I've at that point in my development as a cinephile never knew any director capable. Not only that, just in terms of just direction, Ray and acting, Ray Fiennes, I love that man just keeps surprising me, but that is a performance that he has done that he has never taught he has never replicated. I've never seen him give a performance like he
Hmm.
gave in Spider. So
Do you
um
think Possum was heavily inspired by that movie?
I need to I admittedly that's there's a list and there's a big list. Possum is on that list.
Yeah.
But as far as I can tell from what I've seen from I believe Sean Byrne, I think is the actor or the from what I could tell, I wouldn't be surprised if Spider was an influence. It's definitely aesthetically. I would definitely say aesthetically.
But when you're
But
saying like he was, so, finds his character wasn't ever in an environment that gave him a place to process his feelings and
yeah,
process them in a healthy way, in his own way.
yeah,
Um,
because
it,
well, it's coming back to me. But it's coming back to me. But I believe what it is that set him off is that um his father died, and very promptly afterwards she hooks up with this man.
mhm.
And because his mother never really communicated with him properly, or they never really talked to him about the fact that she practically immediately hooked up with this other
They
man,
never considered him as a person that's affected by this.
precisely. And unfortunately, this young kid immediately jumps to the conclusion that they killed his dad. So that's okay. It's all flooding back to me, but that was the major thing is just the fact that this poor kid who just never really had anyone to really communicate with him or talk to him or to process the kid's grief, and the fact that the parents were so blasé about it, and that of course the kid's going to jump to conclusion, oh, you killed my dad, so you could hook up with this guy.
Hmm.
So, okay, thank you. It's all flooding back to me because this movie came out in 2000. So, and I saw it when it initially came out on video. So that's why it's taking a bit of time to come back to me. But the fact that it's staying with me and the fact that it's all coming back tells you how potent the film still is.
Well, I liked you talking about it in that sense because it reminds me what you were talking about with The Brood and Rage, because Spider is not a body horror film.
No,
And but
but the
it's
mind is
like,
part of the body.
yeah, 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 well, yes, very much so. But in considering in genre is that and yes, very good point. Um that the inability to process feelings and it
Mhm.
not always being your fault, even though you're responsible for what you do, makes me think about what you were saying about Rage with the Brood and that she was giving birth to these undefined children, and they were basically products of her rage. And when you think of like these children are probably like 3 or something, well, we mostly see them when they're like a toddler, basically. And
Yeah.
and that is, a human being that hasn't reached the level of understanding of how to deal with emotions when things feel overwhelming. And Spider was a similar character. I'm not saying he was a toddler, but I'm saying, he didn't know how to deal with overwhelming feelings and how to understand the world. And body and mind connection, all that kind
Yeah,
of stuff,
exactly.
all that stuff that Cronenberg really wants to let you know. So I find it interesting to look at some of his films that aren't in the horror genre exactly, to see how he gets that message across, like Map to the
Mhm.
Stars, when there is, I mean, she's not literally haunted. You could say it's like psychically she sees her dead mother, not
Mhm.
psychically, but it's like in her head, like it's like intrusive thoughts, but seeing her mother
Yeah.
there, it's kind
Mhm.
of that idea. And it's just representative of her anxieties and feelings. And then coming across these characters that are considered odd. Um,
Mhm.
it's just yeah, he's really explored a lot of different things, but generally, I think, even though sometimes he feels really cold, and maybe sometimes surgical about how he feels about humans, not necessarily in visuals, which can be very raw and gross and wonderful, is that he's a humanist deep down, really.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I'm glad we're leading into this direction because actually, well, just recently, I saw a beautiful documentary called King on Screen,
Mhm.
talking about all the directors who have adapted Stephen King to the screen. And they,
Well, I
of
got to
course,
see that.
it's on Shutter. It was awesome. but they talked about Kubrick in relation to, and they said the major
Oh, he's
reason,
a
the prop,
nihilist for
well,
sure.
yeah, well, no, the full problem with Kubrick is that, and you actually, and I had to go back and look at a lot of his films. He does not, he has absolutely no desire to explore anything regarding human emotion. He doesn't give a shit about that.
He
And I've come to the realization there is nothing of his films that are about emotion, like at all. Like there's never once where I watch his movies where I feel like I'm about to cry because I'm so overcome with emotion. And then I realized he was the wrong director to ever touch Stephen King. Cronenberg, on the other hand, and just thinking about it was that's he's a director who just keeps surprising me that because you're right, he is a humanist, and The Dead Zone is a beautiful, very humane human story
You really
about
feel for Christopher Walken's character. You feel his
absolutely.
torment.
And I love the way you see his gift as it corresponds to anyone who he comes into contact with. Herbert Lom's character, I really that was a very poignant moment in there where he made him relive a moment from his childhood, that a traumatic moment from his childhood that made it come back. But it was such a beautiful moment. But and it's and it does lead you to the idea. It's like if you have a gift that unfortunately is torturing you and does and the sad part about his main I think his character's name Jonathan, I think his name in
Mhm.
the movie, the that this gift just destroys his life afterwards. So all he has left is to use his gift for something that could actually do something vital and important
And he does
for the world.
something that no one will, mostly no one will ever know that he did it to save them.
Exactly.
He'll be vilified. Um, and
So
one
yeah,
moment,
so anyone who dares say that Cronenberg is cold and does not understand human nature, I'm like going, uh, watch The Dead Zone. I'm sorry that if there's any proof that this man, and actually, to the credit of the Shrouds, the beautiful thing about that, the one thing I'll give to that movie, and it's one of those movies that I watched it recently and I had to let it stew for a bit. A lot of the because he made that Cronenberg made that movie to deal with the because his wife had just passed like fairly recently around the time he did. He made that movie as a way of coping,
hmm
or just coming to terms with it. The essence of Vincent Cassel's character is that he has created something that is ostensibly you think it's a coping mechanism, but in a way it's about not letting go. And throughout the course of the movie, of all everyone else around him is still like going batshit or doing stupid, crazy shit because they can't move on. But ultimately, in the end, a lot of things that he thought that he had to abide by, like his wife said, "Don't hook up with my sister," don't do this or something like that. He starts realizing how insane it's making him, and he just kind of is finally able to move on
hmm
afterwards. So it's like, no, Cronenberg is an immense humanist. In fact, uh, people don't think it, but Scanners is a very humanistic film too.
Hey, thoughts kill. Thoughts can kill.
Well, beyond that, it's also about the fact that here you have people who have these extraordinary gifts, and unfortunately, these gifts came about because of government gerrymandering and corporate gerrymandering. And these are people who, and I love how the course of the movie, you discover that, yeah, there are some that were driven insane by it, but there are some who just want to exist and actually use their gifts to kind of connect, actually find new ways to connect on a beautiful level. But people just want to control and destroy
And it's
because of
amazing how
that.
that he started that film with the head exploding. That like that's another he starts things. He has a tendency to start a lot of his films like, okay, we're going full in here. Okay.
And then the rest of the movie is like, oh, never mind. We're actually going to have a very thoughtful
Sometimes it
piece.
elevates. Sometimes it does elevate.
Yeah, I
But
will say the finale of Scanners is spectacular. Like the visual effects around Revik and Cameron Vale's final showdown is amazing. But it never occurred to me to think about the fact that this is basically just about people just trying to exist, and unfortunately, they're being messed with from all fronts. And unfortunately, the people who are trying to control them have created a monster, and that monster is messing with him and messing with other scanners in their own right. So it's just that idea that we create our monsters, and even the monsters end up creating monsters in their own right. So it's just kind of like it's that self-destructive cycle that, and then you have people like Cameron and some of the other scanners who he ends up meeting who are just actually learning to use their abilities to connect with each other. and they're not hurting anybody. They're just living and actually living a very low-key existence,
And
not
it's
bothering
similar to
anybody.
Rabbit. Like she didn't ask for this to happen. Well, like
Yeah.
in it's the idea, do you become the monster and continue to live to be the monster, whether it's thrust upon you, whether it's disease, like some kind of idea of body horror in some of his other
Hmm.
films, or is it by thought? It's
Yeah.
not, you have free will. Yeah.
Yeah, precisely. And even and this is the I'm this I love where this conversation's going because we're going to this route. But even The Fly, amidst Seth Brundle's mania that gradually comes from just his deteriorating state, ultimately the thing that wins out at the tail end is his humanity, because in the end, after shit goes crazy, the last thing he ironically, it's sorry internet, but the last human thing he does in order to do good is to unalive me.
Yeah.
It's yeah, and he's doing it not because of his, I mean, sure, his pain is involved in the thing, but he also is in that moment realizes that there is no coming back from
He's
this
become the
anymore.
monster. Mhm.
Yeah, and
There's
that
enough of Seth still in there.
yeah, yeah. I mean, so many of, and now would you agree that The Fly is kind of like, many people have considered that to be like his masterpiece. I mean, would you consider The Fly to be his masterpiece?
I'm not great at picking like what is someone's magnum opus or what is someone or I think that each piece has its own say. It depends on what you
Hmm.
mean in what defines a Cronenberg film. What
Yeah.
generally defines what's a Cronenberg film. And I would say that's definitely one of them. That
Yeah.
is when it comes to the message is a bit more clean cut. It's a more
Hmm.
popular, bigger release, um, popular film, and yeah, it does have a more clean cut way and less um,
I
stream of
think the funniest,
consciousness.
yeah,
So,
the funniest thing about The Fly, and most people are shocked when you tell them this, who one of the main producers was on that film.
oh yeah,
Mel Brooks.
Mel Brooks
Mel Brooks.
and his wife, yeah. And for
Yeah,
David,
Anne
they also
Bancroft.
did it for David Lynch too. They saw Eraserhead and they're like, we like this guy.
Yeah,
They
this is why I just Mel Brooks is just one of the real ones, man. Just the fact that he sees odd filmmakers and he says we need to give them the means to really show what they can do. I'd say I would
He
only agree
sees
with
art that has meaning behind it. He's like, this is somebody
yeah,
that really put this together. This isn't just some boom, this is just weird to be weird. He sees beyond it. He sees
yeah,
creators that are using weird techniques to really say something.
precisely. And well, and here's the funniest thing about The Fly is that this is a remake of a classic B movie, like a movie that admittedly, the thing I've seen, of course, from is of course the classic ending,
Help me.
which I will tell you now is probably the ending that gave a lot of people arachnophobia, in all likelihood. But Cronenberg, it could have been so easy, and it would have been so Hollywood to just make a like a more by the numbers remake. Cronenberg, no, he
To be
said
fair,
no.
the original isn't really that together, I think, to make it to be have been remade in the 80s at that time. Like I don't think it
Hmm.
would have worked.
Exactly. But Cronenberg just, and this is what I always say is like, this is why I don't mind remakes, because it's like so long as you got a filmmaker who says, you know what, I can do something with this, and decide to take the bones of the story and turn it into something that is much more fat. In a way, it's kind of like what at least the first two seasons of Westworld did, where they took what was in essence a Terminator prototype, and they were able to inject new ideas of existentialism into it. So that's what I kind of feel like Cronenberg did with The Fly, was that The Fly was just simply a simple science gone awry movie, but then Cronenberg said, no, we could turn this into something much more that hits a lot closer to home for people. And I would actually say it's probably ironically, even though with a lot of the grotesquerie in the film, I would actually say it's also Cronenberg's most accessible. Like it's the one that I think everyone can watch.
Yeah, it is definitely his most mainstream film of his body horror films. And even his other films that he's done have not been terribly, they haven't been unpopular, but they haven't
Yeah,
been, I think the most mainstream he's been, even with his films that aren't about, well, are done differently.
yeah.
Spider definitely is an outlier.
I
Um,
mean, one that we haven't
History of
even talked
Violence
about.
was a big one, but
Yeah, that
again, no
yeah,
one talks about that film very much.
not as much as they should. And one that I know did no business when it came out, and frankly, I think nowadays should, is Existence. I think Existence is another one that
It
desperately needs to
was
be talked
drowned
about.
out by the Matrix, and that's
Oh
another
yeah,
thing of sexuality when it goes into the, but it also looks infected. When they put
yeah,
this like umbilical cord into the back of them, and it's this like, and it's kind of like Videodrome but for alternate reality. I that's
yeah.
a very boiled down way to say it, but
Yeah.
similar.
Well, that to me, I've read that movie entirely about because around the time that movie came out, that this was when we were really starting to fall in love with technology. We were starting to get obsessed with it. I mean, I think around the time that movie came out, cell phones were starting to come onto the market.
Well,
Um,
remember when we were kids, like they would say, well, television is gonna rot everybody's brains, and then it just got
yeah. Then
evolved in a way people didn't expect.
and then the aggression went over to video games. Yeah, around the time Existence was coming out, video games were starting to come under fire. The internet was starting to really kind of come into people's consciousness. We were really starting to become obsessed with tech
Yeah,
around
you
that
and I are
time.
older than Google and YouTube. Like YouTube came out in 2004, I think, when I was in
And we
high
look
school.
and we look fantastic. I'm just gonna say, yay, you know,
Yay. Hmm. I'm
yeah,
not I'm not I'm
yeah.
not self-conscious about it. I'm just saying just in the idea of uh I didn't have a cell phone till college and I graduated high school in
Oh
2005.
yeah,
And like to do a text was a pain in the ass. Like no one
yeah.
texted. It's just like, "Hey, I'll be there at 9. Are you gonna be there? Cool." Like that's so much easier than what a text was at the
Oh
time.
man,
Your little
I just
Nokia
remember.
phones.
Yeah, I remember watching The Departed and that one
The
bit where they're at
Departed.
the thank you.
The
Yes, I like
Departed.
to say the Departed. The part where they're at the deal with the Chinese gangsters and Leo is texting in his pocket and all he can get out is a simple dollar sign. I'm like going, you would have had to rehearse with your phone so many times in order to do that shit.
Yep. Yep. I love how you caught that. I like-
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh no, I laughed about that because I tried it and it didn't work.
Yeah,
Oh
no, I mean,
man.
cell phones were
But
just like for once I got one in college, it was just more so like oh, we're doing this. It wasn't some, or I called home, I guess. I don't
yeah.
really remember. And that's back when Facebook, you had to have a college um
Well, yeah,
email
'cause
address, you
well,
know.
it started at yeah, it started as a co college social like a strictly keeping in touch with fellow students. That's how it started in the beginning until it like went crazy. But in relation to Existence, Existence is kind of was very clearly Cronenberg's commentary about the idea that is technology going to become like an extension of us? Are we going to become so tech obsessed that we are just gonna like
Or are we going to become the extensions of the tech
yeah
itself?
of the tech itself to the point where we will not know what real is anymore. And because of our obsession with the tech, will it make us do things that is against our nature? The scene in particular that struck me was when Jude Law's at this weird ass restaurant slash butcher shop,
Yeah.
and he eats the meat, and the meat is like rank, it's disgusting. But something compels him to keep eating and eating until it's like nothing but bones, and then he just makes the bone gun. And it's like no human would ever think to do that, especially since it would mean doing something that is repellent to our nature, but yet something pushes him to do it,
Hmm.
which tells you that he
It's
is
about the
surrendering.
environment you're in.
Yeah. And he is
It's
surrendering his free will to do this. Yeah, which is very clearly going to be leading him to violence.
And when you think about The Matrix came out about the same time, and it's just the
Hmm.
idea of that very much so was in the general zeitgeist of what we were afraid of what we're trying to define, what we're trying to make sense of. And so it's interesting to look today on with AI just becoming even more and more prevalent, and we know even if we don't engage with it, that it's eventually going to be much harder to detect. And it'd be really interesting to see. Well, some of them won't be winners, like when people were trying to, like older producers would make movies about being online and all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff, and they'd get like fear.com or like,
Oh
okay,
dear.
I'm gonna use a HTTP. I'm like, I know what that is. You make it sound like they're using it like when Star Trek is trying to explain the science, but they make it sounds like real science. It's not unless it's like that. It's like, okay, I know what a JPEG is. You don't have to talk
You
about
don't
it
have to
like it's
say it. You don't have
fancy.
to say it. Yeah.
You know, but
Oh
I
man.
love how bad that movie is actually. I
Oh yeah. The
It's a
bona
fun
fide
one.
trashterpiece at its finest.
I really love this author, Jay Huberman, and film after film, and he's talking very directly about that period of time when Existence came out and The Matrix came out, and he writes a lot of great books. So I just recommend that if you're interested
Lovely.
in that when it comes to
Lovely.
that period of time and
Excellent.
onward and forward.
Well, speaking of onward and forward, I mean, it's safe to say that Cronenberg, at his late, he is definitely getting on in years. I'd say the good thing to kind of
Isn't
like
he like
think about.
74? He's not that old. Oh,
uh,
no, he's 82.
Yeah, I was about to say
82.
he's in his 80s now, but the fact that he is still going strong, making movies, and apparently still has ideas for the future. But even more so, I think a good extension, we should just talk about the works of his kids. I mean, well, recently Caitlin Cronenberg came out with the movie Humane, but Brandon, holy shit, Brandon has
Didn't she
really
do
come.
Processor or did Brandon do Processor?
No, Brandon did Possessor and he did Infinity Pool.
Antiviral. I liked him. I liked Antiviral.
I missed an antiviral, but I will say
Oh.
Infinity Pool was one of my favorites of last year. That one just rocked my world in all the right
What was
ways.
that
But
line that Mia Goth says? You're just a little baby or something like that.
yeah. So do you think, even if, hopefully David's with us for a long time to come with more in him, and actually, as I've got Dr. Decker back here, I mean, the thing is about him is that he still shows up when he wants to in other movies. I mean, of course, Nightbreed. Well, actually, Nightbreed was a coup.
He has a long
Yeah,
IMDb list of being an actor too. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Well, most recently, the thing I saw him in, he was in the TV series Slasher, the anthology
Mhm.
series Slasher. He actually played a vital role in the season Flesh and Blood, where he played an especially nasty patriarch of a morally, well, is there any other kind of rich family, but a morally dubious rich family. But Nightbreed, that was such a wild thing for him to be in because, for all intents and purposes, that movie it portrays things that he is definitely not. That definitely is contradicts with his philosophy. But the fact that he committed and
It's
gave a
fun playing a
yeah,
villain. And usually
yeah.
the nice that thing usually it's the night not always, but usually a lot of the time it's the nicest guys that play the best villains, you know? It's fun
Oh
to be
yeah,
something that's totally not you.
exactly. And Cronenberg, and the thing that I love about Cronenberg as an actor is like he has that great, very seemingly stoic demeanor, and that's why he's always so good when he plays like uh medical types or corporate types, because he's always able to use that demeanor uh to sell you on the idea that this person has no
Austere. He's
soul.
very austere when a
That's
lot
the
of the
word.
characters he plays. And when I go back to Star Trek, so people that believe in a Star Trek future, even when you bring in the DS9 of it all, which I don't know. And Discovery was like one of the more recent ones, right? And the other one that's on Strange New Worlds is back in these. So anyway,
Yeah.
um, when he was in the finale of that, it was like the last moment David Cronenberg is there as Agent Daniels, basically a guy that, you know, keeps track and makes sure people aren't time traveling wrong. It's more complicated than that, the temporal war, okay? But so he started off one of the lesser series in this series, and he has these collections from all the other captains from before, and it is a big moment. It's not just something that it is a huge Star Trek moment to be a part of. And whenever I meet other Trekkies, not that everyone's the same, no one's a monolith, but
No.
somebody that looks to the future and has hope, as opposed to, even though it's not going to be easy. And I think, like I haven't really heard Cronenberg talk about it at length, but he's somebody that, despite his darkness, the gruesome, the obscure, the weird, the morally corrupt. It's just he seems like somebody that has a positive idea about humanity. Even he might not define himself as humanist, I'm not sure, but and also has hope for the future, even though a lot of his films are these warnings against our obsessions and overconsumption in Existence, Videodrome. I do think he's somebody because like it's a really big deal at the end of Discovery, okay? It's like a really big deal.
Or even Crimes of the Future
Hmm.
uh where we may come to a point where society becomes so emotionally numb that we become that we don't that anything that seems outrageous to us, we'll treat it like a freak act or something like that. Yeah, there is that kind of,
I
but
think
even
that is
then,
a good way to look at Crash too. That
yeah.
theme only presented differently.
Yeah. Oh, no, actually, I would even say presented to a grander extreme because the whole idea of Crimes of the Future is that it's a society that has lost any semblance of being able to feel pain or any kind or feel any
Hey,
kind
you
of
know what? I don't want to feel
sensation.
pain. I'm for that. I'm just not for the world of that film, but if I
Oh,
never have to
I
feel pain, awesome.
the funny thing is, feeling pain is just another way of feeling sensation. I mean, that world would suck for S&M enthusiasts. I'm sorry,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know?
that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. I
Well,
mean,
that's why that's why
but
you got
but
to find a new way.
Well, the thing
Um,
that's why I loved about that movie, I mean, especially with Kristen Stewart's character in that movie, where there are times where she's like exploring Viggo Mortensen's body, and you see her like getting wet. You could see her like getting her
it's
engine
a
revved.
very, very sexual movie. Even though
Exactly. But
the things that are happening don't feel sexual at all. It feels sterile to me, even though
yeah,
they are very obviously very turned on.
yeah. But because of that, they treat anyone like Viggo Mortensen or anyone who has a similar evolutionary progressions, they treat them like freaks. They treat them like novelties. They treat them like sex toys because to them, they are so odd and so weird, even though they represent the route that we need to go through to survive. And I love that Cronenberg is flat out saying these people have the actually hold the key to what it takes for us to move forward as a species. It's because the world is changing, we're fucking up the world, and like any species on the planet Earth, like cockroaches, they survive because they adapt to the environment that is presented to them. And the whole idea of that movie with Viggo Mortensen's character, with a lot of other people, they are adapting. They are learning, like the whole opening with the kid eating the wastebasket, and the mother's treating him like a monster, and the dad, and it's
The
like,
the
no,
corpse that you call your son, he'll be here.
yeah,
I won't. And that's another boom of a beginning with
oh, such a great
Cronenberg.
opener.
Yeah.
Such a great opener that defines what the whole movie's about, because it's like, no, this kid, it seems strange what this kid is doing, but what he is doing is in essence what we need to do in order to survive a world that we have basically fucked up on an environmental level.
Hmm.
Because yeah, and I love the fact that Cronenberg is just telling us this is what we need to do to for the future. We need to learn to adapt in order to survive, and that's what we need to do. So I'd say that's a good stopping off point, don't you think?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
All right. So as a fun little wrap up and as a nice way to kind of bring together everything that we've discussed, in your opinion, what are the top five moments that truly defined Cronenberg as a director?
Oh my God. Moments
Like
in
the
the
moments
films?
moments in his movies that you feel truly define him as a filmmaker.
Ooh, that's tough on the spot. I'm gonna combine this, okay? The two moments in The Brood where the guy is physically in agony, and which drives him to mental agony in The Brood, but also the reveal at the end, and she's like, "You're disgusted by me,"
Yeah.
and her rage is like, we find out it's like coming out as these children, and as I said before, toddlers don't they haven't learned yet how to regulate emotions, and those are her emotions not being regulated, just exiting the body. That's definitely from a visual and also more of his body horror standpoint, and also thematically about how emotions and the physical are the same.
Hmm.
And I definitely think when the fear, it's not as hopeful, but it's a scarier moment when Gina Davis is trying to get an abortion and she has that nightmare about giving birth to a maggot because
Yeah.
she doesn't know because he's already part fly when he would have gotten her pregnant, and that fear of her bodily autonomy, her fear of creating something that yeah, that definitely that moment. That is a darker moment, but definitely, one of the top five. Let me think.
Mhm.
Hmm. Definitely the moment in Crash where he has sex with her wound, but also the ending where the him and his wife just have plain sex at the end of a car crash, and he's like, "You're okay, it's fine, you're okay." And then I can't remember if it's him or her that says, Maybe next time," because it's gonna continue, you know.
Mm,
Um, I've got two more. Mm,
yeah.
I haven't seen the Dead Zone recently, but I know there's one there. I know there's one there. Mm. The ice. I'm going to say a dead zone moment. I have not seen it in a few years, so can I
Uh-huh.
just say undefined dead zone moment?
That's fine.
Yeah, well, that definitely includes Christopher Walken's character. And um, hmm, was the sense of comedy. I'm on the spot here, you guys, so give me a
Yeah.
break. But the sense of comedy and sexuality and absurdism, um, definitely in Naked Lunch. Which have you read Naked Lunch or read
I have
passages of it?
I have not. I've
Oh
been
my
told
God. It is
that,
so
yeah,
stream
that
of consciousness, and he's obviously on drugs. No, not judging, but that is a book. Like if they said we're gonna make a movie of it, I would think how,
yeah,
how.
Naked Lunch legendarily, that was one of the many unfilmables, like one of those books that was considered to be unfilmable. And according to like experts on the book, they said like, no, if you try to do a literal translation of it, it'd be like a $400 million film that is like borderline incomprehensible. But Cronenberg, he apparently had to adapt the prose to his style, and he actually said there was kind of an eerie harmony between his style versus the style of the book, and
I'm
it's
gonna admit I didn't finish it. Not because I didn't like it. It's just
I haven't
you
seen
kind of
it.
have to. You kind of have to read the book in sections, in my opinion. People
Yeah,
read differently. Just
exactly.
because it's so stream of conscious that there's nothing to hold on to. Not it's very good, but not
Mhm.
the easiest narrative style. But I definitely when the bug's asshole is talking to him, that's one of the more funnier. Um,
Uh-huh.
a sense of humor and also a sense of humor about sexuality, and it's talking about a lot of very sexual things. So that's more of a just a little more one of the rare wink comedic sides of David Cronenberg and his idea of the body and sexuality.
Yeah, and I think that was your fifth. I think that was your fifth.
Yeah, that was my fifth. I,
All
I
right.
wish I had
All right.
more. I know there's a dead zone moment due for a rewatch.
All right. Well, just to make you feel better, I put myself on the spot as well. So here are my five.
Ooh.
And I'm actually going to try to go in chronological order. I'll try go in chronological order. Actually, one thing that did stand out to me about Rabid was the ending. Was that at the end of the madness, at the end of everything, she just ends up becoming just another body with the rest of them. Just that
Hmm.
moment when her body just gets thrown on the pile with the rest of them, and there's no big revelation moment where everyone's all like, "Oh, she was the one. Oh, yeah, we have to get the
Very
antivirus." It's like, no,
atheistic. Is that not that's not a word. It speaks to the atheism of once
I would even
body's done.
I would even say nihilism too, just by virtue of the fact, just the well, actually, yeah, you're right, the atheism, just because
It's neutral,
at the end of the day, she's just meat like the rest of all the other bodies that are being thrown on the pile as well.
which sounds nihilistic, but when you think of it from a scientific kind of point of view, it's like we're all the same.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, we've seen this woman. This is a woman who just wanted to exist, who wanted to have love and companionship, but unfortunately was taken away from her. But at the end of the day, after she's dead, she's just meat like everybody else. So I think that was a good indicator of Cronenberg's, uh, a lot of his philosophy kind of encompassed in that last moment of the movie, which I actually thought was very potent.
that's
So
a good one.
yeah, next up, actually, cliche, but honestly, I'd say truly the devil fetus, the fetus licking moment from The Brood. Uh,
It's a good one.
beyond that, not just because of her. And the funny thing is, what she is doing is the most natural thing that even animals do with their young when they birth.
Oh yeah, animals eat
Yeah,
the sack. Yeah.
exactly. And but I love how she's doing this, and to her, and this is why I got to give No End of Love to Samantha Eggar for
She's
really
so
committing to
good
it.
in that movie. And
But
she's not in it enough.
I love Art Hindle's performance in the scene as he is just trying, just because there's stakes. He has to look like this is normal and that he can actually handle this. But what he is seeing is so grotesque and just so, to him, is just so abhorrent and just so disgusting that he just can't handle it anymore. And it's just such a great moment and perfectly defines the idea of, well, actually, one of the key things about body horror, about how uncomfortable we are with the natural things that our bodies can do that
Perfectly
we find
said.
disgusting. Yeah, that is just disgusting. Um, one moment that oddly I find on a visual level very striking. I'm still not sure I 100% grasp it, but I think it just relates to just unlocking parts of ourselves that we're not ready to confront. There's an image in Videodrome that stayed with me. Just this, it seems like a hallucination sequence where Max Wren is, uh, the TV has Debbie Harry's lips on it, and then it
Hmm.
does the camera does a pull out, and he's in the Videodrome chamber with the clay walls and all that, and he is just whipping the TV just relentlessly. And I mean, hallucinations are a major thing in that movie, but to me, that whole thing was about the idea of something about what he is seeing is unlocking things about himself, that like unlocking certain pleasures that he is very clearly ill-equipped to deal with, and is probably in it. And what you're seeing is kind of like his consciousness trying to register what the hell he's feeling in that moment.
He felt like he had, sometimes we feel like we're in control of something, but we find out the hard way sometimes we are not. And it
Yeah,
makes me also think a good companion to a lot of Cronenberg films would be Altered States when it
fuck
comes to,
yes.
yeah.
Oh God, yes. Yeah, to me, Altered States, that's a movie about the untapped potential of humanity, or beyond that, the stuff that we've left behind that maybe we just should leave behind. So that's, oh God, I gotta do an episode on that movie one day.
Oh, so good.
Oh
So good.
yeah, absolutely. Ken Russell, man, he's one I need to do. That's another one I need to do an episode on. Guy I need to do
Well,
something on.
if you can't find anybody, I'm a huge Ken Russell fan. Huge.
I do love me some Lair of the White Worm. So
Yes, I do. I love me some of the Devils. I also
oh
what a
yeah.
Crimes of is it called Crimes of Passion? The one with
Yeah.
Catherine
Yeah,
Hepburn.
Crimes of Passion. Yeah,
Yeah, not
Crimes of
Catherine.
Passion.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that was my third. Let's see, number four. Um, Actually, it's a wonderful bit of a dialogue, but in The Fly, when Seth talks about insect politics.
Oh yes, I love that
Yes,
scene. That's such a good choice.
it's
Oof.
such an incredible bit of dialogue because that is the divining the divide between humanity and animal. Because the thing that does make
We
humanity
are
special
animals,
is
though. We like to separate ourselves, but we
we
are
set,
animals.
but the fact that we have the imagination and the capacity to make that separation,
Hmm.
the fact that we aspire to have politics, which as tedious as politics are, the whole reason in essence, the reason why we created politics is a way that we can try to come up with a compromise between people of very differing ideals of how things are meant to be done. And the whole point of it is that we're supposed to come to some kind of compromise. the whole point of humanity is that we are ideally supposed to be evolved that we can put forth that effort. But insects, on the other hand, live strictly for the sake of survival, for the sake of the colony, for the sake of the hive. They live in a kind of harmony, but unfortunately, it
It's
is
like the
also one
Borg in
that,
Star Trek. Sorry, just making
yeah,
fun of myself.
yeah. Well,
Prepare to
it's
be
like
assimilated.
it's like the Borg, it's like the Cybermen in Doctor
Hmm.
Who. Um,
Exactly.
but it's about the idea that insects do not have a capacity for conscience. I mean, spiders live entirely to feed. That is entirely their purpose is to eat and to
But they
feed.
look so cool.
They look cool and even borderline and to an eerie level sexy, but that's a different story.
They choose sideways, That's kind of
Yeah.
cool.
Oh yeah, it is kind of cool. It is.
Did you see the
Um,
spider lady? I'm sorry, I'll mention that later.
yeah, well, you mean Kiss of the Spider Woman? Yeah, I saw that.
You're like, I had to.
Well, I'm also a musical enthusiast and I love the works
Me
of
too.
Kander and Ebb. I love Kander and Ebb, so yeah,
Hmm.
but that's a different conversation. But
Hmm.
so that's my number four. Number five. Um, I'd honestly say, and this may just be me, like kind of, and a lot of it is because I need to rewatch a lot of these. But
It's a
oh,
big
actually,
topic to
no,
pick a
no,
director, yeah.
actually, no. Number five, and it's not the moment from Scanners that most people think it's going to be, but for me, I think one of the coolest moments that talks about humanity, like the brain, and how the brain is nothing more than just another computer. But I love, and it's such a badass moment on Cameron's part, where he's actually able to reach into his brain or reach into his mind and actually through the phone, actually hack the computer and actually burn it out using his own mind.
Hmm.
And I love how Dr. Ruth tells him is like, what is a computer? Just another brain. So all you're doing is just scanning another brain, maybe a less sophisticated brain than the human brain, but you are scanning a brain.
So don't get
But
cocky.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's such a cool moment where Cameron's actually able to hack into the computer over the phone and cause the thing to burn out with his mind. I was like, and that's such a great, peer to the idea that what is the brain if not just a supercomputer that's in our skulls kind of thing, which all that basically means is like, our brains are a Nintendo Switch and the computer that he was hacking into is a Game Boy. What is that? So I was like, that's going into Cronenberg's philosophies, especially relating to what we are as just fleshy sacks and what our brains are. That was a kind of a moment of profundity, which ironically is thinly veiled as a just a scene of hardcore sci-fi badassery.
Yeah. I mean, you
Yeah.
could meat sacks doesn't sound sexy, but the human body, depending on how you the human body, the adult body, instead of meat sacks, it's how you frame. So that kind of like, it's like that kind of also says something to sexuality in Cronenberg's films. Is like meat sacks where it's like that it's got that sexuality with the voice or how
Yeah.
like Vigo looks in the Crimes of the Future
Oh
or
yeah.
as you said when she's like doing like she's really getting off on it but so it has that sound and then that maybe a look but I'm saying meat sacks that's I think
Yeah.
that's a good way to define the sexuality in the Cronenberg's films.
Yes, exactly. So, all right, that is our discussion on David Cronenberg. Another thing we love to do, just because I always love keeping everyone appraised, because the world of horror is ever changing and ever expanding with new, amazing, new, and sometimes even obscure things from the past that people have not seen. So, have you watched anything new or old for the first time that you love so much that you have to tell everybody, "Oh my God, you got to see it"?
So I'm been behind on movies. I think one of the new like yeah, I watched it a while ago, and it's definitely Third Part of the Night by
Hmm.
Andrzej Zulawski. I did a podcast episode on it, and it takes place in some people might not call it horror, but it is, okay? Uh,
Yeah.
and it's haunting, it's violent, and also the camera. You know what? Zulawski's kind of like a cinematic exorcist. The camera is like is handheld, but with like a machine to that movie. If you never stop, the anxiety is there all the time, and the resistance in it takes place in Poland during the German occupation, and the
Oh,
resistance. They're trying to find. Well, generally, they're trying to find a vaccine for, I believe, typhus. It starts with a T. I always get it wrong, mixed up with another disease. But trying to find a vaccine, which was true. This was true and happened in history. So people that were in the rebellion, that were in the underground, would do that vaccine, and that's how they would get like stuff done because the Germans wouldn't touch them. You know,
hmm.
so it's also a very chaotic movie. I mean, if you liked Possession or The Devil, I mean, if you like Zulawski, it might be it's it's equal with Possession for me. They're different,
Yeah.
but
Oh,
yeah.
that's that alone makes me want to see because yes, I did love Possession.
Yeah, no, it's very
Yeah.
it's because our main character is your everyday kind of guy that's living where people are being shot and beaten in the streets. Like that's just a thing that is happening all the time in this movie. And he's wondering about like, hey, I have this relationship with this new girl and she looks just like my old wife. Does she exist? Who knows? But and he's like thinking, do you believe in true love? And then, then everyone's like that he's asked the nun who do you believe in true love, and she's like, there's no doctors in this hospital anymore, they were taken away in trunks and gassed. He's like, okay, but true love. Not in a way that's as annoying as I say it, but he's just somebody that is in the horrors of the world to an extreme and still trying to find meaning through interpersonal relationships as well. And he's just part of the resistance because he has nothing else to do.
Yeah.
It's done better than I'm explaining. But that's a movie
Yeah.
that I keep on bringing up all the time. I don't think it's streaming anywhere. I think you have to buy it on disc, but some
I,
people know how
I
to sail the seas.
Yeah. For myself, I'm in the home stretch of the year. I love trying to outdo how many news things I see every year. So a lot of times I'll just watch anything. However, I did actually watch I because actually at Spooky Empire, David Howard Thornton and a lot of the people who made the Mean One are going to be there, but I actually watched their latest Screamboat
I've
just
heard good
recently.
things. Do you like it?
All right, now have you seen the Mean One?
I haven't.
All right. Well, the mean one
I
is
know
a
David Howard Thornton though.
yeah.
He's the Terrifier. I know that's not how you say
Yeah.
it. I just like to say
Yeah.
that. He's
Well,
Art the Clown.
yeah. Well, no, the mean one is a one. I love that movie. It is so adorable. It's actually kind of sweet. It's
It's on my
funny.
list now.
Yeah. And a lot of, yeah, David Howard Thornton is playing the Grinch, but it's a very, unlike, now I have love and respect for what Jagged Edge is doing right now with the Twisted Childhood universe, like with Blood and Honey 2. Also another
Bambi.
recommendation. Yeah, Bambi was shockingly good. And actually I just watched Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, which that also had levels of fucked up, which I wasn't expecting, which I really enjoyed. So they're doing good things, but I respect that they are taking it seriously. Whereas with Screamboat and with the Mean One, I feel like because of what Jagged Edge is doing with Twisted with the Hooniverse, I love the fact that Screamboat and the Mean One I feel like they have a freedom to say, you know what, we're just going to have some fun. We're actually going to have some fun, and even better, you feel the effort that they are putting into having fun. Unlike the god awful Mousetrap, which was just a dude in a freaking rubber mask and a rubber Mickey Mouse mask.
It's not done by them,
Screamboat,
is it?
no,
No, yeah. I'm like
no.
I couldn't
No,
imagine.
Screamboat is the same it's the same people who did the Mean One.
Yeah.
And they have it has the same charm, it has the same tongue-in-cheek sense of humor to it. And even better is and the thing I actually wasn't expecting is that they actually use the Staten Island Ferry as a major character
Hmm.
in the movie. And even New York on the whole has a bit of a character in the movie.
My favorite
And
city, even though I have never lived there, but it is my
they
favorite city.
yeah they take the time to give like the soul of New York and inject that into these characters that we see. And even the main character Selena, who is someone who moved to New York, who is like not sure if they fit in or that they could handle it. I like that that's a major part of her arc. They actually had effort in the characters and everything like that. But even the whole reason why Screamboat Willie, as he's called in this,
Love that
they give
already. I
they
love
give a
it.
they give a great reason why he's there.
Is it
And
kind
even
of like
better,
Club
it's
Dread, but a little more serious?
a
Like
little
Club
bit more
Dread,
serious.
yeah. Like, are you ready for some wet panties and she
Oh no,
shanties?
it does not. It actually does not go that far. It actually does not do like that. Oh, show titties kind of thing. It doesn't do anything like that. It actually, well, even funnier is that there are moments in the movie where they are ripping into Disney. Like actually, one thing that's hilarious is that Selena, when you meet her, she's running from a birthday party that, and all the girls from that party are following her to the ferry, and all of them are in Disney princess colors. Like every single one of them look like
The
a particular
blue,
Disney.
the yellow, the pink.
Yeah.
That, yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the one who's very clearly obviously meant to be the Ariel parody is like, come on, I want to be where the people are. And then but then
That's
there's another
good.
point, and then there's another point where the ferry is actually stuck in the middle of the ocean, and they're like, say, well, why don't we just get out and swim? It's like, do you know how cold the water is out there? You'd be frozen. Let it go.
Let it. That's cute. I'll have to watch that
Yeah,
one. I'll have to watch
it
the
is.
Peter
It's
Pan one. I haven't seen that one.
yeah, both of those are on Peacock actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so but I will say with Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, I mean, I don't know if you saw Blood and Honey 2. Did you see Blood and Honey 2?
That's on my list as well.
Um, You don't need to watch the first Blood and Honey, and I would
I
actually advise you
have,
not to.
so yeah.
Yeah, that was no, it is night and day by level of quality, by how good Blood and Honey 2 was by comparison. Like they just did a full overhaul to actually give Scott Chambers, who plays Christopher Robin in that one, just delivers an incredible sympathetic performance. But they finally commit to the ideas that they're going for, and that has been carrying over with Bambi the Reckoning and with Peter Pan. I'd say it's actually kind of a fucked up hybrid of the first Black Phone and People Under the Stairs.
Ooh, now you have my attention. I love the
Yeah.
Black Phone, but People Under the Stairs is one of my seminal horror films because it was on
Oh
the
yeah.
Sci-Fi
That
Channel all the time. I loved it.
Yeah. Oh no, that is in my top three Wes Craven films.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, all right. So thank you, Emma, for joining. I'm so happy we finally did this at long last, you
At
know?
long last, thank you so much for having me. It's an
Yeah, and
honor.
oh, and rest assured, just because I had so much fun doing this, we are definitely going to be doing this again down the line because this was
Good.
a absolute thrill. For
Well, Ivor
anyone,
Trees has really good taste in people, so.
I concur. I concur completely. Yes, we love Trees, and one day, oh man, I don't think the internet could take it if we all did a round table.
That would be so cool, actually.
Oh my God. Oh man. I don't think the internet could take it, but I want to do it.
If
Now I
you keep
want to
this
do
in,
it.
Ivor Trees is she does horror movies and beyond on Instagram and
Yeah,
TikTok
exactly. Oh
and
no,
YouTube.
she is a friend of the pod. She has been on the pod a couple times before. Most recently, she we did the Deep Blue Sea review
I
episode
heard
on
it.
there. Yeah. Oh, it was so fun. It was so
Hmm.
fun. All right. Well, but we need to you need to tell people where they can find you. Give us your socials.
Oh yes. Okay. So I'm mostly on TikTok sort of at the moment, and Instagram. I am Emma of the Impact, all spelled correctly. If I'm on a social media platform, I'm there. If you want to see my podcast, which I'm doing a lot of editing in November, I'm releasing my second season. It's the Emma of the Impact Film Podcast. I'm, a little
Yes.
creator, so you have to really look the whole title up for it to show. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, I don't just talk about horror movies. My whole idea is I my guest picks a movie and that neither of us have seen, so it kind of we both experience not together in the same room, but which would be better, but
Okay.
we've experienced the movie for the first time and we discuss it.
Okay. Oh, that would be fun. The
Well, you're
gears
gonna
are
come
turning
on,
for me.
right?
Oh yeah, well now I
Yeah,
have to. Now I
now
have
you
to.
have
Now,
to.
yeah, well I'll have to brainstorm that. So yeah, as well. And anytime on our side, if there is just a movie that you're like, oh my God, I got to find some podcast to talk at length about it. I am always down for it. Whether it be one I have seen or haven't seen, either way, I'm going to want to talk about it. My whole philosophy is that if it's something that you feel so passionate that it's worth talking about, then we need to talk about it.
Indeed,
Pure
indeed.
and simple. Oh
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, heck, I mean, a lot of times Ivories would like say, "We gotta talk about Blood Diner." It's like we gotta talk about Blood
Oh
Diner.
my God, it's so funny. I think
I
one of the
love it.
brothers, the main brother, is actually kind of suave. Is that weird?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. Fine.
That is not weird. That is not weird.
Look,
That is not weird.
I love Vincent. He's my real man. Vincent Price. I mourn
Hey,
him.
no, oh, that I'm a Christopher Lee kind of person myself.
Peter Cushing,
Oh yeah.
Christopher Lee, Vincent Price, all of them. I love
Mm.
them all. But
Oh no.
Vincent's
And
just
Barbara
my
Ste
husband.
and Barbara Steele. We definitely would
Yes.
not kick
Yes.
Barbara Steele out of our bed. So, oh man. That okay, we're just falling into a wonderful pit that we're just going to revel in for a bit. It's the
Thank
Halloween
you for
season. We could just
listening to us. We
yes.
love you.
Thank you. And if you wish to delve into the dark bowels of human imagination, ask yourself the simple question, what's in the podcast?
Thank you for joining us on this edition of What's in the Podcast. If you find yourself hungry for more deep cuts into the gloriously morbid and macabre, you can also find us on TikTok, Blue Sky, and YouTube at Narcotic Casserole. You can also follow us on Instagram at Narcotic Casserole 25. Follow us if you dare.